Welcome to Gentle Goodbyes, where we learn together to recognize the subtle signals of life, love and accompany our loved ones in the most important moments. Here, we share profound knowledge about old age health, signs of end of life, and how to care for the mental and physical health of loved ones so that every last moment is filled with peace, compassion, and meaning. Don't let important signs be missed. Join us in preparing, understanding the seconds, and loving every minute. If you believe that love can make things more special, click subscribe and join Gentle Goodbyes today. There are times when we rush along the roads of life, thinking that if we just run faster, do more, we will get closer to what we dream of. But then one day, you suddenly realize everything that matters most has been left behind. A high-rise office. Ethan, 45 years old, sits in front of his laptop, his face tense. His heartbeat quickens. The sound of his heartbeat begins to get louder, drowning out the sound of typing on the keyboard. He looks up. The office lights are harsh, and then everything goes dark. When the body speaks, when the heart can't take it anymore, it's not the end. It's an invitation. An invitation to slow down, to listen, to start over from the very small, very real things. Flash forward. Ethan's car drives out of the city, towards the countryside. Empty roads, open fields on both sides. Ethan sits behind the wheel, his face pensive. The narrator introduces the main story. This is the story of Ethan, a man who once believed that life was a series of never-ending steps. But then, on his journey to heal himself, he discovered a priceless gift, the gift of slowing down. The car stops in front of a small house by the river. The afternoon light falls on the wooden porch. An old woman, Martha, sits leisurely pulling weeds on the porch, looking up and smiling. Ethan stands confused at the gate, still holding a phone with no signal. Sometimes, to find yourself, you just have to dare to stop and walk very slowly. The gift of slowing down. Part 1. The day the city shattered. Continued from the previous scene. Ethan standing in front of the small house. Martha smiling. Fade out. City, 3 months ago. Scene. Crowded streets. Overlapping car horns. Everything moving fast. Ethan appears in a formal suit, walking hurriedly through the crowd. One hand holds the phone. The other pulls a suitcase of documents. Sound. Ethan's heartbeat begins to beat softly in the background, blending with the noise of the city. There are beats that seem strong, but have actually been broken for a long time. Scene high-rise office, morning meeting. A glass conference room, cold white light. Ethan sits among busy people. Everyone's eyes glued to the laptop screen. The projector displays numbers, growth graphs. Ethan's hands lightly squeeze the back of the chair. Sweat beaded on his forehead despite the cold room. The sound of typing, the click of a pen, gradually becoming distorted, suffocating. Scene. Ethan stands up to speak, his voice trembling slightly. We need to speed up. A pause. His vision blurs. Everything spins. The sound of the city are muffled. Only the sound of his heartbeat rapid, then absent. The briefcase falls to the ground. Papers flying. Ethan collapses. People rush to him in panic. Scene hospital. Late at night. Ethan lies on a hospital bed. The hallway lights dim. The doctor reads the test results. Mild heart disease, cardiomyopathy. Chronic anxiety syndrome. Immunodeficiency due to prolonged stress. Quiet dialogue. Doctor, Ethan, your body has been holding on for too long. This is not just a fainting spell. This is a cry for help. Ethan shakes his head slightly, eyes empty. I can't. I have work to do. Doctor looks straight into his eyes. If you don't stop now, the price you pay will be heavier than you think. Scene. Alone in a luxury apartment. Ethan sits motionless in his modern apartment, a pale yellow light shining on his tired face. All around him are certificates and trophies, but they all reflect an emptiness. I've run forever without knowing where I'm going. I've won races and lost the most precious part of myself. He picks up an old photo, a boy, Ethan as a child, laughing heartily by the river. His hand shakes slightly. The screen fades into an image, a blade of grass swaying in the wind, peaceful. the complete opposite of the world he lives in. Scene decision. Ethan quietly closes his laptop, puts away his files. A small suitcase was pulled out. On the table, he placed a map, a small countryside circle, a place his mother had told him about when he was a child. The clock ticked slowly. A warm piano piece began to play very softly. Sometimes it takes losing everything you hold on to find your way back. End of part 1. Final scene. Ethan's car sped out of the city in the fading dawn. The camera slowly pulled away, leaving Ethan alone in a vast world, as if life had just begun again. Part 2. Return to the forgotten fields. Scene the trip. Ethan drives out of the city. The skyscrapers blur in the rear-view mirror. The road stretches out, weeds growing on the side of the road. Sound. The steady hum of the engine. No more horns, no more voices, just the wind. Sometimes, to find yourself, you have to leave everything you thought was familiar. Seeing the little village by the river. Ethan drives over a small wooden bridge. The landscape opens up. Golden fields, low-roof houses sitting quietly on the riverbank. An old wooden sign reads, "Willow Creek, welcome home." An old man in a straw hat sits fishing by the river, smiling at Ethan. Children ride bicycles, fly kites, their laughter echoing softly in the wind. Scene, initial confusion. Ethan stops the car in front of a small motel. Inside, the interior is simple, no strong Wi-Fi. His phone has no signal. Ethan holds the phone high, turning it back and forth to find a signal in the middle of a vast field. A little girl rides a bicycle past, giggling at him as if looking at something strange. The sound of the wind blowing gently through grass, the sound of insects, the sound of water trickling from a small stream in the distance. Here, time doesn't seem to run. It just flows, quietly like that river. Scene meeting Mrs. Martha. Ethan walks on a small dirt road, comes across an old wooden house with a sign, Willow Herb Shop. On the porch, Mrs. Martha, about 70 years old, wearing a simple burlap dress, is tending to pots of herbs. Martha looks up, squinting against the sun, then smiles gently. The smile makes Ethan stop involuntarily. Something very familiar and warm in her eyes. Dialogue. Martha. Voice as light as a wind. "You're Ethan, right? I recognize you right away. Your mother's appearance is still there." Ethan. Confused, nodding slightly. "You know my mother?" Martha. Nodding, eyes distant. "We used to run wild in these fields, before the world taught us to run after something else." Ethan, smiling softly, eyes filled with embarrassment. "I just plan to stay for a while." Martha, smiling gently. "It's okay. Here, no one counts the days. As long as you slow down, you'll hear what you need to hear." Scene first night in the village. Ethan lies on a small wooden bed. Outside the window is the sound of insects, the rustling of the wind. He rolls over, feeling alienated from the absolute silence. He reaches for the phone. No signal. He looked out the window. The moon was shining brightly over the fields. A long moment of silence. Then he sighed softly, putting the phone down. There are silences, not for us to fill, but for us to learn to touch ourselves. End of part 2. Final scene. The next morning dawn. Ethan opened the door and stepped onto the porch, taking a deep breath. Before his eyes, the morning mist drifted over the vast grasslands, and the silver river flowed slowly like an old song. Part 3. Learning to breathe again. Scene early morning, beginning of change. Ethan slowly walks into Martha's small herbal shop, his face still unfamiliar and suspicious. Light dialogue. Martha, cutting mint leaves, smiling. "Today, shall we start with the feet?" Ethan raised his eyebrows, half joking. "I thought we'd start with the fastest email response." Martha, smiling, handing him a basin of warm water. "Here, the first thing to answer is your body." Scene. Ethan sits down, dipping his feet into the basin of fragrant, steaming herbal water. His face gradually relaxes. The tense lines begin to soften. Scene simple lessons. Martha teaches Ethan small habits. Keep a journal every night. 3 things to be grateful for during the day. Take a slow walk every morning. No phone, just walk, just breathe. Eat seasonally, warm oatmeal and local fruit for breakfast. The camera gently follows Ethan's hand as he writes the first line in his notebook. Today, I heard the wind so clearly. It's been a long time. I haven't written anything, not to report to anyone. Seen listening to yourself. One early morning, Ethan sits by the river on an old rock. No laptop, no email, no goals. Just the calm water and the distant chirping of birds. Ethan puts his hand on his chest, gently feeling his heartbeat. Steady, warm. I used to be afraid of silence. But it turns out, silence doesn't swallow me. It embraces me, like water embracing a rock submerged in the riverbed. Scene first feeling the rain. A sudden early season rain falls. Ethan doesn't run away. He stands on the porch, silently looking at the silvery water in front of him. Special moment. Ethan takes a deep breath. The smell of wet grass, the smell of newly awakened earth, the smell of pristine nature rushes in. The camera slowly zooms in on his eyes. His gaze seems to open, like a child touching real life for the first time. I forgot. The world used to have a scent. Scene first changes. A series of images that move quickly but softly. Ethan is sleeping deeply on a wooden bed, his face peaceful. Ethan smiles softly when he hears the children laughing by the river. Ethan eats a simple meal, toasted bread and fresh vegetables. Sunlight shines through the window. Acoustic music is rustic, cheerful, like the whisper of the earth and sky. And part 3. Final scene. Ethan writes in his night diary. Today I smiled, for no reason at all. He smiles softly to himself, then turns off the light. The camera slowly moves away from the warm, bright room, leaving the starry sky outside the window. Part 4. The scars and the unspoken words. Seen a rainy day, dusty attic. A light, rainy afternoon. Ethan helps Martha clean out the old storage room behind the herbal shop. The light in the room is dim, thin layers of dust floating in the air. While cleaning out an old wooden box, Ethan accidentally discovers a stack of handwritten letters tied with faded silver ribbons. Martha pauses, voice low. They're from your mother? She sent them during the most difficult years. Scene, old letters. Ethan sits on a rattan chair, his hands trembling as he opens each old letter. The letters are slanted. The ink is smudged in some places. The voice reading the letter, mother's voice, gentle, warm. If one day you find yourself lost, come back here. This river, this field, saved me from days when I thought I couldn't get up. Ethan, whispering, choking, Nom. Flashback, childhood memories. Flashback sequence. Hurried family meals. The father sits reading the newspaper. The mother is busy in the kitchen. Little Ethan sits quietly with a plate of cold rice. The times Ethan shows off his drawings at school, but his parents just nod vaguely. Ethan, I grew up in a house full of stuff, but empty of hugs. Image of little Ethan sitting by the window at night, pressing his forehead against the glass, looking at the lonely moonlight outside. Flashback scene. Martha tells Ethan about the time his mother was sick, a severe bout of depression after leaving the city. It was this village, the slow pace of life here, that saved her. Touching dialogue. Martha, gently, we all carry scars. Ethan, not to hide them, but to remind us that we were strong survivors. Ethan, nods slightly, eyes red. I thought I had to be strong by not needing anyone. Martha, smiling, holding Ethan's hand. Strength also comes in the form of a tear. Scene, silent night, inner harmony. That night, Ethan sat by the attic window, the moonlight quietly covering the fields. He opened his notebook, writing, Today, I am no longer afraid of being weak. Ethan gently placed his hand on his chest, where the old pain was still there, but this time he did not avoid it. I realized there are scars that do not need to be erased. Just learn to live with them with all gratitude. End of part 4. Final scene. Ethan carefully folded the letters, tied them with new string. He looked out the starry sky, let out a long breath, relieved, peaceful. An acoustic guitar, slow. Clear screenplay part 5. Choosing a different life. Scene dawn, a new beginning. Dawn dyes the countryside golden. Ethan walks on a small dirt road, his face relaxed, carrying a bag of seeds and old books. Ethan, I used to think success is climbing really high, but it turns out sometimes happiness is knowing to plant a small garden for yourself, seeing a place to slow down, small tea shop. A small wooden house is renovated by the river, a rustic sign hanging in front of the door, a place to slow down. Inside, rough wooden bookshelves, simple tables and chairs, jars of dried herbs, sunlight sparkling on warm teapots. A small box for guests to write today's gratitude and drop it in. Action. A little girl sits reading a book by the window. An old couple sits side by side, sipping tea, holding hands. Inner voice. I no longer seek applause. I seek sighs of relief and smiles without words. Seen Ethan, the breath keeper. Ethan stand behind the counter, pouring tea into a ceramic cup. His face is calm, his eyes are calm. An old clock hangs on the wall. The second hand moves slowly, making no sound. Martha leans in, smiling softly. Not bad, Ethan. You've really come back. Ethan, looking out the window, eyes shining with a gentle light. Not just come back, but find yourself. Scene finale, a very real smile. Sunset falls. Ethan sits on a wooden chair in front of the shop's porch, holding a cup of hot tea. He looks out the river sparkling in the afternoon light. Subtle moment. A gentle breeze blows by, gently shaking the wind chimes hanging on the porch. Close up. Ethan smiles slightly. The smile is soft, very real. No pretense, no need to prove it. And, in the end, the most precious thing is not how far you've come. It's knowing where you are and who you become. A place to slow down. A place to slow down and really live. Melody, lingering like a breath that has just been revived.